Welcome back to another episode of Oh My Menses. I'm your host, Karinda. I'm a naturopath and menstrual cycle educator. And today is actually going to be a little excerpt from one of my exclusive email newsletters from the Karinda's Corner community. And surprisingly, these podcast episodes are very easy for me to record, but surprisingly, you guys seem to like it when I do a video version of one of the emails that I send. So I'm going to be recording an email that I just sent out today, and it's going to explore this really important concept that was so helpful for me the last time I ovulated, which was about a week ago, and includes some of my journal musings, quotes straight out of my journal, and also includes some wise words that my partner had for me when I was really feeling like the overwhelm and the peak energy of ovulation. But before we dive into that, we're going to start off with a cycle check-in, as we always do. And I am starting to laugh and smile and giggle because my cycle, I'm so luteal. I'm so luteal. And I'm going to be talking about something that's like the opposite of how I'm feeling now. Not the exact opposite, but feels pretty far from where I am now. I'm going to be talking about the peak of your ovulation while I feel like I'm in the throes of my luteal phase. So I'm cycle day 23. I did confirm ovulation with a temperature rise a few days ago, and I'm just feeling luteal. Everything feels harder. I can't even begin to describe to you how I was going to record in my Karinda's Corner chair back there, and how it was just such a hassle in terms of setting up the camera and the tripods and like the microphone. And I actually just said, you know what? I'm not doing this. Vacuuming would be easier right now. And so I did some chores. And it's just been a lot of that today. It's just been a lot of, okay, yep, we're going to do this thing, and then just coming up against these obstacles, whether they're like actual external circumstantial obstacles or whether it's like internal resistance. And maybe I'm going to need to take some of my own advice that I'm going to be sharing with you from this episode. So yeah, I felt a bit heavier emotionally, and yeah, feeling a bit heavier emotionally, heavier physically. I went to bed very early last night. I'll share more about that in the email. And yeah, so just, but you know what, like checking in with myself, it is an absolute gift, because no matter where my energy's at, I always have the power to be self-aware, and I always have the power to check in with where I'm at, and that then informs my capacity and like what I can give. And as long as I stay in awareness of that, my energy is managed on the days that I have high energy, the days that I have low energy. So that's my biggest invitation to you always, is to just keep coming back to your actual capacity, keep coming back to your energy. And honestly, I think personally, if you're a female with a menstrual cycle, there is nothing that does that better by tracking your cycle, spending a little bit of time each day to be present with your physical self and your emotional self, and to actually make observations and record those observations and get to zoom out and look at the patterns of your cycle. There's so much information that can be gained from that. And so if you don't have it already, I created a guide to help you get started on cycle tracking, because the cycle tracking apps, guys, they're not doing us justice. Most of the ones that I used back in the day, that I find most of my new clients who first start working with me use, they're just not cutting it. And there's also been so many lawsuits with data leaks and data selling from period tracking apps. So don't use Flow, don't use like the standard period trackers. Learn to track it yourself. Stop relying on an algorithm. Download my free cycle tracking guide. It's a 25-page guide. It has the perfect beginning steps if you are totally new to this world, and it's got some extra tidbits if you've already been like tracking your periods or maybe tracking your whole cycle, but you're ready to maybe take a couple of extra steps to get more information from your body and get a little bit more connected and in tune with what your body is trying to tell you, what your hormones are trying to tell you. So it's got a starting point for everyone in there. Check the link in the description. It's a free download, 25 pages, PDF, get it instantly. Also lots of like resources linked within there and some emails to like help you make the most of the guide when you sign up. So get the guide if you don't already. And no matter where you are at the moment, just take a few breaths, a few moments to like check in where you're at with your cycle. Maybe you want to check whatever you use to track or chart your cycle to see exactly what cycle day you're on. Or maybe you just want to intuitively feel into like what phase you're in, and maybe just take a mental note of like where you're at. Tune into like your physical body, like where you feel the energy, your energy residing physically. You might find there's a part of your body that more energy is drawn to right now, or there's maybe a part of your body that is holding more sensation. And after spending a few moments with that, then check in with your mental and emotional state. How are you feeling emotionally? What are your thoughts like? Are there any emotions that are present at the surface? So, and even now there's like other thoughts coming in and there's like internal mental distractions. And I'm just like, no, we're recording a podcast right now. I will get back to you in 5 to 7 working days is what I'm telling my thoughts. It's so luteal phase, so it's going to be really interesting me reading this email out to you. So anyway, let's get to the Karinda's Corner email. So this is called Set Your Sails with the Wind and Other Wise Things My Partner Said About My Ovulatory Energy. Friday blessings to you. Straight off the bat, I'm sending you love and strength, just on an intuitive hunch that you might need it. This past week, it seemed I couldn't have a conversation with anyone, patients, family, friends, colleagues, and even my partner, without acknowledging how burnt out and or overwhelmed they felt. I wasn't immune to this feeling. Just last night, I took myself to bed at 7:20 p.m. after a light dinner and a heavy sense of overwhelm, like I had no capacity left to hold anything. So, my heart is with you if you're going through it, or if you're just feeling the feels. This is very on point for the recent Pisces New Moon, by the way, in case any of you needed to hear that. Feels and heaviness aside, because I actually want to talk to you about my most recent ovulatory phase. It was intense, so I guess we're still talking about feels. I experience ovulation with huge waves of expansion and energy that can almost be overwhelming if I neglect my needs or don't ground myself. If I'm being real, it feels like a microdose of ecstasy. Legit. And this ovulation was no exception. In fact, it might have been more intense. I was feeling the wave from last Wednesday and all through last weekend, so like half a week. Ovulation in general, and certainly this time, keeps me optimistic. It keeps me focused on others. I can observe the heaviness of the world without feeling weighed down by it. If there's problems, no worries, I've got solutions. If there's any helplessness, it's met with hope. I can give a lot, and sometimes overgive, and keep on giving. It wasn't until Saturday afternoon, so about 5 days into this ovulatory wave, that I told my partner that I had to pace myself, catch my breath, and actually take some time to connect with myself. I had raced from a busy work week with patience and creation into a busy weekend focused on socializing. No pause to catch my own breath or reflect on how I was actually feeling. So thankfully he agreed, and he's very in tune. And so we took a break to sit in the sun, meditate and journal independently. Great, I thought. Time to turn inwards and connect with myself and my emotions. And I was very, very relieved by this. I was like, okay, time to catch my breath. The first thing I noticed was how hard it was to tune into myself. I set a timer on Insight Timer, which is the meditation app that I use. And I was like, okay, 10 minutes to tune into myself. And yeah, I noticed it was hard. my thoughts were racing, and my thoughts were mostly about others, plans, things that are upcoming, things that are currently on my plate, things that I have to do, places that I want to be, things that we're going to do this weekend. Cool. No stress, I thought. Let's just sense where our energy is in relation to our body in this moment. And that's a practice that I like to do sometimes where, as a part of meditation, or if I just need to check in with myself throughout the day, I'll kind of just sense into like where I feel the border of myself. And like other people, depending on, what parts of the internet you dabble in, what parts of spirituality you dabble in, you might refer to this as an aura, an energy field. And sometimes sense into it, actually. Take a moment right now to like see how closely you can sense your energy that naturally expands out of you, that radiates off of you a little bit. Just take some time to see like if you can feel into like where that is in relation to your body. And I notice, it fluctuates for me. Sometimes it can be like close in, like really nice, densely packed, like against my physical body. And other times it's extending off a bit more. And what was interesting while I was doing that practice, while ovulating, while in this ovulatory rise, I couldn't even find my energetic border. My energy felt nowhere near my body. It was way out, like somewhere over there, and it felt like it was in like the upper realms. It felt like all my energy was like out and up. And, to put an opposition, like comparison to that, menstrual energy when you're menstruating during the bleeding phase of your cycle is so much more naturally drawn in and down. So we've got these two like polar opposites going. We've got like I'm trying to bring myself in and down, but naturally my energy is like out and up and just like extending and expanding. So I couldn't sense my energetic border. I couldn't sense how far out my energy field was. And so without any pressure, I just kept like inviting it back to be closer to my body. I invited all parts of myself to come back to the present moment. And I was just, calling myself back and inviting my energy to be like more concentrated. And as I was doing that, as I was inviting myself to do that, and as that was my intention, more thoughts, more ideas, and like more expansive energy just started to like flood in. And honestly, at this point, I was getting a little bit frustrated. I was trying to force my energy more closely inwards, and my efforts just seemed absolutely pointless, absolutely futile. I kept wanting to open my eyes and observe my surrounds, and I did. I was taking so many breaks just throughout that 10-minute meditation. There were lots of ants crawling on me. I was just sitting on the grass, so I kept getting like physically distracted by that. But I just wanted to keep like opening my eyes and like look at the trees, and there was like a honey eater bird getting pollen from the flowers that were like close in front of me, and there were lots of bees active. It was so sunny, and I just kept wanting to like literally put my attention outwards. So after 10 minutes, my timer went off, and interestingly, a kookaburra called out just as the timer went off, and I was like, okay, I like that little symbol, that little message. So I stopped trying to meditate, and instead I started journaling. I'm like, okay, if I can't like change what my energy is naturally wanting to do, let me just journal about how my energy is, so I'm at least taking the time to reflect. And I have my journal here, and I will be reading directly from it. So I've got real journals. And this was on cycle day 17. Kookaburra called out at the same time my 10-minute insight timer went off. And there they go calling again, hidden amongst the sirens of a truck reversing at the other property nearby. I'm finding it hard to sense myself today. In brackets this week, ? I have dropped off habit tracking along with some of my habits, but I still feel the thread of my desire and my habits closer than what they used to be. And then I did a little infographic to demonstrate where my desire is and where my habits have been. Not a huge deviation from discipline. Anyway, I went straight into the intellectual. Meditation was hard. My intention was to call all my energy back to myself. I quickly started thinking about listing all the other things I was thinking about, which is some pretty heavy stuff. I even had the soles of my feet touching and my hands also touching as a means of keeping my energy flow internalized inward / a closed inward loop with myself. I felt restless. I tried sensing my field and it felt so expanded. I couldn't tell where my energy ended. I intended for my field to just slowly draw closer to my body, becoming more concentrated. Ants and tiny spiders on my skin kept distracting me. I'm watching a bird enjoy the bottle brush flowers alongside the bees. I feel more energy in my head than my lower body, which is interesting as my libido is high at the moment, / lately / today. The sun kissing my skin feels so good. Almost too much, almost. And then I went through, and this is actually, I'd highly recommend this, doing this as like a voice note to yourself, which is how I've been doing it most of the time this week, or just like written journaling it to yourself. And like, I don't know if you can see Laika's just waiting at the door. Baba, can you just lie down for a bit? There's not much longer to go in the episode. You want to say hi to everyone? Come up. Say hi to everyone. Yes. Yeah, this is my desk. You know my desk. All right, we'll go out soon. Lie just down, and you lie down for a bit, okay? And we'll be out soon. So yeah, a practice to write down or to just voice out loud to yourself has been this like somatic tracking, and it honestly, I reckon it helped keep me grounded for most of last week when my energy felt like it was constantly being overtaken by this like rising ovulatory energy. So this is a written version of that tracking. My left nostril is blocked compared to my right. I am leaning towards my left side, which feels lighter than my right. I feel mild fullness in my abdomen. I want to make out with my partner. I did. I listened to some binaural beats from his headphones. My energy is naturally outward today, and perhaps I would exert too much energy trying to contain it. Checking in with myself and my soma is important, and I can do that without forcing my energy in or outward. Just be with what is. Pen running out right on schedule because the pen started to fade as I was writing those last words. And it was so funny, as the pen started to fade out, I felt my resistance to this inward practice of self-reflection and journaling growing and growing. And even as I'm journaling, I surprised myself as I was reading that out loud. I'm tracking myself. I'm inviting my attention inwards. And what do? I'm like, I have the urge to make out with my partner. And I do it, like while we were both having this like quiet meditation time to ourselves. That's just like a picturesque demonstration of how surgingly outward my energy wanted to be. So I did the journaling and I'm like, okay, checking in with myself is important and I can do that without forcing my energy in or out. And I've done that. So let's just be with what is. That shifted my awareness into gear, which is a great first step with anything, bringing awareness into it. Later that night, we decided to have an impromptu date night at a local Mexican restaurant, and that was so nice. It was the best decision based on where my energy was at. And if you can believe it, I even indulged in a Long Island iced tea, and I can confidently confirm that that is absolutely enough alcohol in one sitting for me. That's enough alcohol for me for like a month. And over this dinner, I was sharing with my partner how I felt during the meditation earlier in the day and how hard it was to bring my energy in and turn back towards myself. And he knows all about the cycle phases at this point, and he knows where I'm at. And he had a really poignant thought to share. He said, well, yeah, if your energy is naturally outwards now that you're ovulating, it makes sense that it was hard to bring your energy in. It's better to set your sails with the wind, right? If you don't, your sails will get wrecked or you'll go off course. I replied as I frantically pulled out the notes app on my phone where I keep all my email ideas and podcast ideas. And I said, wait, can you say that again? That thing about the sails and the wind? That's going to be the basis of my next email newsletter. And that was so ovulatory of me, like pulling out my phone on a date night at a restaurant just to like write down an idea. It's ovulation, such a time of ideas. So again, it's better to set your sails with the wind. In this case, the wind we can say is like ovulation and the energy that it brings. And the sales is how I choose to direct and use that energy. It's such a great reminder to focus on what you can control, your sales, rather than focusing on what you can't control, the wind. The analogy is actually fantastic from a hormonal and menstrual cycle perspective, in that you can't stop yourself from ovulating. You can't stop the wind. And now when I say you can't stop yourself from ovulating, I'm talking about if you have an active menstrual cycle. Of course, there are many ways on a mass scale that doctors and specialists stop many females from ovulating. And that makes me very sad. But I'm going to refrain from getting into any more nuance than that for now. So what happens in ovulation? And what are the hormonal changes in ovulation that we can't stop? You can't stop your estrogen from rising. You can't stop that increase in testosterone that you get around ovulation. You can't stop the natural buildup of follicle-stimulating hormone that's going from your brain to your ovaries. You can't stop or slow the development and growth of your ovarian follicles. And you can't stop that final surge of LH, another brain hormone, that ultimately triggers ovulation. It's all going to happen as a part of this cycle that is embedded into our DNA. So don't waste your energy trying to force the flow of things. Instead, invite yourself, allow yourself, give permission to yourself to surrender to it, flow with the energy. It's so much easier than resisting, way more energy efficient. And it's actually honoring your cyclical nature and respecting your capacity. And I have not seen anything quite like honoring your cyclical nature and respecting your capacity, that as tools that can help us regulate our nervous systems on a daily basis and help us stay regulated and flexible and adaptable in the long term. Those tools are so underrated for that, but they work so well. Because as soon as you're clocked into your cyclical nature and you are tracking your unique cycle, you become more clearly aware of boundaries that you need to enforce at certain times of your cycle. You become aware of times in your cycle where it's naturally easier to exert more energy. You start to notice what tasks are easier at certain phases of your cycle. And you can see how your physical needs or emotional needs change at certain points in your cycle. And you can see by just tracking those things how easy it becomes to go, oh, I can see how my needs change throughout my cycle. And oh my God, excellent. I can cater to those needs. I can account for those needs. I can change my life in simple, manageable ways to make sure those needs are getting met. To me, personally, that's how the nervous system heals. Like when we can hold that awareness day in and day out for ourselves and implement practical changes that don't break the bank, that aren't a complete lifestyle overhaul. It's so easy to do. Maybe it's easy for me to say because I've been doing it for like 13 years straight. And that's why I made the cycle tracking guide, to help distill everything I've learned and practiced over the last 13 years into an easy to start guide if you want to get started on this tracking journey. Because it's not just for your hormonal health, as I'm laying out here. It's for like nervous system healing. I would go even further to say like, this is a great foundation for like trauma healing, being aware of your inner being every day, being aware of your needs every day, being aware of how your needs change and like honoring those needs. Oh my gosh. There's nothing that I think more readily and easily establishes self-trust and inner safety than that. Really strengthening that relationship with yourself. So yeah, cycle tracking, okay, cool. Yeah, sounds fun, but I'm not trying to have babies. I don't care about my hormones. Like I don't have any symptoms. Okay, and that's great. But like, in my experience, this work goes way beyond that. So no matter where you are at in your current cycle, if you have one, my reminder today is for you to set your sails with the wind, because there's no use in trying to change the wind. You can't. I would also like to share that I do have a couple of fun new things on my website. I've been a little bit late with podcast episodes because I've been doing so much back-end work that has actually been like I say that like, oh my God, so much work, so draining. It has actually been so nourishing for me because I feel like I'm reestablishing my business from this like solid foundation, clearer than it's ever been, overhauling my website, overhauling how I deliver packages and like even my style of naturopathy. So it's all been very exciting. So some of those changes include a couple of free quizzes on my website that you can do. I've got a hormone quiz and a period quiz. And like, who doesn't love a free quiz? So if you're curious about what your symptoms are saying about your period or your hormonal pattern, and again, we often like use the terms like periods and hormones interchangeably. Like if we're having a hard time, we say, oh, it's my hormones. And maybe it's because we know we're coming up to our period or we're having our period. And I do like to, obviously they interact with each other, but I do like to kind of like differentiate them a bit, because you could have a hormonal imbalance that is directly related to your period, or you could have period problems that aren't really about a hormone imbalance, and maybe they're more about like your microbiome or inflammation or your immune system. But obviously there's a huge interconnection. But my fucking Libran ideal self couldn't just settle for one quiz. So I've got a hormone quiz to understand what your symptoms are telling you about your hormones, and I've got another period quiz to help you understand like where your period at is in a spectrum of like healthy and optimal to maybe telling you that some things are off and there's some things that need attention. So I'll link both of those down below. They're free, and I think the results are quite comprehensive in terms of little tips and ideas that I share with you based on the result that you get. And obviously we're also going to use our discernment. Like, these are free quizzes that I have made for like a population of you in mind, but it's not going to be able to like accurately, perfectly, holistically diagnose everything that's going on with you and give you the best advice for you, because it's not tailored to you, right? So quizzes are great, but always feel free to book in for a free connection call if you want to explore your health in a direct, tailored way. And another thing that I now have on my website is like essentially this master blog, Is My Period Normal?, that has the most frequently asked questions about periods that I get. It's a really easy to navigate page on going through period color, period smell, heaviness of periods, what's a normal menstrual cycle, signs of an abnormal menstrual cycle. It's really comprehensive. There's a lot of information in there. And this is coming from a place of me wanting Karinda Wholistix to like grow into this beautiful well of knowledge and resources encompassing menstrual health, hormonal health, and cyclical living for women, and creating these resources and really honing in on information based on what real women like you are asking Google or asking different like AI dialogues. It's felt so good to like get this information out there, collate it in one place. So yeah, read it, reference it, refer to it if you have any questions about your periods, and always feel welcome to email me if you have any specific questions. Oh my God. Okay, go outside. Great, so we got Laika vomiting on the podcast. That's why she wanted to go out, and I told her to wait, the poor thing. Oh my gosh. I'm a bad dog mum. Anyway, I need to go clean up some dog vomit now, because I'm a real human, and that's just been the vibe of today. Everything's harder than it needs to be. Oh, my poor love. Anyway, check out the new resources on my website. Everything's linked below. And the last thing I want to share with you is that how I'm delivering my main package, the main way that new patients work with me, is Harmonized Hormones. I'm changing the delivery and the intake of that. So essentially I'm going to have an intake every couple of months rather than just taking on like new patients whenever. I'm going to have a cycle of like connection calls and like seeing if we're right for each other and spending a bit of time on that. And then every 2 months opening up for a small portion of women to start the journey. It's not a group program. It's still my direct individual attention on you. But yeah, I just wanted to let you know that it's not going to be available to join all the time. And the other like big exciting news is that because it's Harmonized Hormones is getting a massive upgrade, it is currently the lowest price that it will ever be. And I'm not saying that to create like this, you know, crazy intense sense of like urgency, but it's just the truth. Working with me in this way, getting my direct support for 3 or 6 months, it's the lowest price it's ever going to be. Prices are going to go up from May 1st, 2026, depending on when you're listening to this. So you have until April 30th to lock the journey in for 3 months or 6 months at the lowest price it will ever be. So if you're one of those people that has been following me on Instagram like since 2021, or you've been listening to the podcast for a while and you experience imbalance in your body that like you relate to from the things that I talk about, if you resonate with my style of how I talk about the body, how I talk about health, maybe you've listened to me on the nuanced naturopaths as well, and you like my approach to healing, this is the time. This is the time. Because it's the most accessible it's going to be, and it's a long overdue upgrade. So please book in for a free connection call anytime before April 30th in order to explore if Harmonized Hormones is actually suitable for you, for your health goals, based on what your current symptoms are, based on where you're at in your life. I'll always be honest with you. I don't just put people into the program if I think it's not going to help them, or if I feel like it's beyond my knowledge, beyond my expertise, if it's out of my depth. I'm honest with you about what I can and cannot support you with. And I'll always be honest with you about whether I think I'm the right practitioner for you, and where it's necessary, I make referrals. So yeah, it's totally obligation free, no cost, 15-minute chat just to explore a bit what's going on for you. I can tell you how I would approach that using my style of naturopathy, using my specific methods within Harmonized Hormones. And you can also ask me any questions that you have for me and suss out if I'm actually like the right practitioner for you. So it's a two-way street, you know. Let's see if we can have a lovely collaborative relationship. So that's the first step to take if you're like, yes, this is the year that I get to the bottom of my period pain. This is the year that I finally get to understand why my cycles aren't regular and what I can do about it, actually make changes to like regulate them. If this is the year where you're wanting to hone in on supporting your fertility and optimizing your hormone health, if you've got baby making on the cards for the next year or so, now is the time. Now is the time. I can't wait to meet you, can't wait to work with you, see if I can support you. And I think that's everything I have to say. Now I have to go clean up some dog vom. Okay. I'll see you guys in the next episode. Thank you for joining me for another episode of Oh My Menses. If you have a special request of something you'd like to hear me talk about, or you have any questions that you want to ask me, please drop me a line at hello@karinda's.com.au. I would like to acknowledge the land and country on which I live, work and create, that of the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation. I honour their connection to land, sea, flora and fauna across this country. I pay my respects to the elders of these communities, past, present and forthcoming.